Welcome to the Moz House podcast. I am your guest host, Rebecca Wise. I'm a photographer, and I am here with the current artist in residency, Margeaux Abeyta.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming. Let's say, how long were you here for? A week?
About a week.
About a week. And how'd you like it?
Yeah, what's not to like? It's absolutely amazing. It's in a beautiful spot, and it's got such great people and such nice stories. It's been a really great time for me.
It is time. It is a great place. I'm kind of tired. I was at the beach all day yesterday. I was at two different beaches yesterday. I went to the beach here on the reservation. Went to Cuffy's, and we weren't there for very long. I was maybe there for an hour and a half. We did some clamming. Have you ever been clamming?
I've never been clamming, but I want to go.
Yes. Okay. Next time you're here, all right, we're gonna take you clamming.
It sounds perfect.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted.
I went clamming. We got 7 clams. They were all way too big. I did eat them though. So we went clamming. I got bit up by something, either horseflies or a jellyfish stung me. I don't know. I've been stung by a jellyfish in that water before, and like my whole leg swelled up for like a week, and it's crazy because you don't feel it. And then so that was fun. I was at the ocean. I was at the ocean with my nephews, my cousins. One of my nephews like 7, and it was just me and him in the ocean. And then at some point I was like, all right, we gotta get out, let's go. And so he's in the shallows of the ocean, and I was like, this is the last wave that hits you, and then we're getting out. So I watched him get absolutely wrecked by a wave, and then I was like, get out of the water. And then he's like, I did a flip. And then a second later, he goes, I didn't even mean to. I was like, yeah, I could tell. I could tell that wave knocked you right off your feet. Let's go. So I'm actually very tired. I'm recovering from that. So that's what I did. And that's what you do here in the summer. You go to the beach. I had a bonfire yesterday. That was fun. Me and my cousins had a bonfire. We sat around. We smoked a joint. It's legal here in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm a pothead. Me and my cousins sat around a fire yesterday. Smoked some J's, had some hot dogs. It was a great time.
Good summer. Sounds nice.
That's summer, right?
Yeah.
That is summer. This is my first question that I have written down. And I think it's a good segue. Where did you grow up, and what did you do in the summers out there?
Okay, so I grew up in Taos, New Mexico, but I also grew up in Venice, Italy with my family. Very different climates. Mm-hmm. In Venice, my mom was on a gondola rowing team. She would take the family out on Sundays, and we'd go with her racing group and to different bodies of water and kind of shallow beds in the ocean where you could just stand in the water and you look out and it looks like infinite nothingness. And you just have this little like sand spot that's just below the water that reflects the sky completely. It's absolutely amazing.
That sounds great.
And then I also grew up in Taos, New Mexico, in the reservation around there as well. In summers there, playing with cousins, getting picked on by my brother. Classic. Yeah, we do so many different things. Also making mud pies or collecting berries, however it turned out. Definitely not as much of a ocean baby unless I was in Venice. Yeah. I am from the water clan, so I did love swimming. Okay. I really loved to swim when I was a kid. It was like impossible to get me out of the pool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My parents would be like, we're leaving. And I'm like, yes. You're leaving. I'm staying right here.
I feel that. Every time I get in the pool, it's like, I'm going to be here all day.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to prune until I wither. So a little bit of that. And yeah, I would do a lot of hiking, a lot of being outside. I think in New Mexico you do a lot of outdoors activities, rafting and like whitewater rafting and hiking and climbing and any kind of sportsy outdoorsness. We're a bit more of this kind of rugged people.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I want to do that.
Trekking through the trees.
I was in Phoenix recently for the first time. And my dad used to live in New Mexico and used to live in Las Vegas for a long time. But I didn't get to do any of the outdoorsy things while I was there. And I feel like, it's different outdoorsy stuff.
Yeah, I miss it so much because like now I'm, I'm growing older and I'm withering away and I don't hit the gym enough. And I live in Amsterdam, so I ride my bike everywhere. Mm-hmm. This is like my daily exercise. Okay. But everyone thinks, oh, but you would never go hiking. You never go camping. And I'm like, you don't know me. Like, this is where I grew up doing. I'm like, I did multi-day backpacks. Like, my biggest dream was like, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. Okay. I'm like, Now I absolutely can't do that. My poor little body does not have the strength.
Getting older.
It's also, when you live in a city, it's so hard to get back and find a spot in nature. Also in the Netherlands, everything's fake, pretty much. Because the city was completely built by the Dutch, you know, because it was completely underwater. And then you have the dam, and they irrigated and create all their own lands. So all of the nature is perfectly placed. Every tree is like the perfect amount of space between that one and the next. It's very hard to find this kind of wild element.
Yeah.
And there's no mountains. There's one hill, apparently, somewhere.
Yeah. I lived in New York City for 2 years. I lived in Queens. And it's so different from growing up out here where I'm surrounded by so many trees and we have so much wilderness. Although it's interesting here, if you ask like anybody maybe over the age of 60 or something, they'll tell you when they were growing up on the reservation, this was all farmland. So you could see all the way across. There weren't trees like this. So it's completely different from how like my grandfather grew up. My grandfather, all my grandparents have passed away at this point, but they would all have been like in their 90s at this point. And so when they grew up here, it was just like farmland, just like fields and grass. And now I grow up and it's just like all trees. Can't see anything. My parents built our house, and outside of our house, they put some trees around it. And the trees, I live on the second floor. And when I was a kid, I could see out my window and just have a clear, unobscured view of what was going on outside. And now there's just like all these trees, like fully blocking I just wake up and I see some trees for the most part. And that's all I can really see. But I love it. I love all the trees.
All these rich mansions just see hedges.
Yeah, that's the thing. They just got hedges. I have some big giant pine trees in my yard.
Much nicer, I think.
Yes, I like it. I do like it. I love it. I love it. So it's so funny. Now that I've learned a little bit more, one of my questions was why Europe? And now I have
why Europe?
Yeah.
Like why I live in Europe.
Yeah. Like why'd you go to school in Europe?
So I did my prior bachelor's study at the Maryland Institute College of Art. And I primarily did woodworking and sculptural works and things like this. And then my senior year, I had taken a digital fabrication course. And I was really hooked. Like, this is also at the time when, like, 3D printers weren't, like, a thing. There was, like, the thing. Like, it was new. And there was, like,
only some people had
there's,
them.
like, whispers of bioprinting. And there's laser cutters, CNC. Because before it was all just done for, like, industries. It wasn't really being used in-house and stuff like this by artists. It's like, now you can do anything 3D printed. They're like, oh, yeah, whatever.
So many, like, libraries. Just, like,
boring.
Our elementary school library here in Southampton has a 3D printer. The computer teacher just, like, prints fun things for herself all the time.
Trinkets, and you're like,
fully
all right,
consumer.
that's cool.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was really exciting, and this kind of new wave of making with technology and kind of bridging this gap of art and science and things like this. And I got really into design as well. And so I went to a program in the Netherlands with Micah, where we went to Dutch Design Week, and we had a little shared course with William de Kooning, which is another university out there.
Okay.
We did a little hackathon art design thing, and I really liked it. And then when I was finishing at Micah and I was ending there, I didn't really know what to do with my life.
Okay.
And I wasn't really sure, and I was in a standpoint, and I thought that I really wanted a few more years of education before I wanted to try to commit to a master's. And I was still really young also. I think I was like 20.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I thought a bit more education would be nice. So I applied to some of the universities that I had seen and visited in the Netherlands. And yeah, I got into them, and then I was just making a decision. So I really got more drawn to Design Academy Eindhoven, which is where I studied for 4 more years. I did communication design, and it was just like a big umbrella for all design. And but communication primarily worked with technology, and I was able to learn like 3D graphics and motion graphics and a little bit more technical under basis for my work, which was really nice. And I feel like it's what I wanted. Now I hate design.
Listen, I get it.
I really hate design.
I get it. Listen, I wanted to be a graphic designer real bad, and I do it, and I hate it. Every time I have to open up InDesign, I'm like, I hate this.
I just hate the design world, I think. And I really do like the art world. Yeah. So now I'm in the Netherlands. I've been there for, I think I'm coming on to my 6th year.
Okay.
And I'm back and forth. I'm between there and California. And I would say that most of my work is here in the U.S.
Okay.
But it's also a really nice place to live. It's really open and it's quite a big hub of diversity.
Okay.
Just because, maybe because the Dutch colonized so much. You've got a lot of Surinamese, you've got a lot of Indonesian, you've got a lot of expats from different countries that come for tax breaks and things like this. So I have friends from everywhere. Okay. It's really nice. All my friends we're sitting around a table and people are like, oh, where are you guys from? And you have to go around and there's 8 different countries.
Okay.
And yeah, there's something really nice about that, getting that world perspective and finding the different stories and building a career and relationship and studio practice around such different perspectives. So I guess that's why Europe.
Yeah. I love that. Now I want to go to Amsterdam. Never thought about
come
it
over.
All right, yeah. I got a place to stay now.
Yeah, exactly. More than welcome.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. So it's so funny. I went to Stony Brook University, which is here on Long Island. And I just went there because it was close. I got a full scholarship. Me and Jeremy both went there. Stony Brook gave these scholarships to Shinnecock. We noticed we're so close to Shinnecock. We don't have any Shinnecock students. We're going to have a full scholarship. So me and Jeremy went to this place where it was full scholarship. And then sometime after I graduated, I always knew about historically black colleges. And then I found out people were calling these other schools like PWIs, primarily white institutes. And people were acting like it was just that. Like you either go to historically black university or you go to a primarily white institution. And I went to Stony Brook. And there were a lot of people there. There were a lot of ethnicities. We had a lot of international students. I had these Chinese roommates who were from China, and that was like a whole different world. I remember one of those girls asked me, they were like, how do you handle when you get a B? I was like, oh my God. My mother would be so excited. I did not do well in school. I graduated in 4 years. Don't really know how I did it. Barely got by, but I was like, I would love that. And then that girl was like, okay, you're not the person to talk to about that, because I am very disappointed I got a B+. Was like, I would have loved it. Sounds great. I have this really diverse group of friends who I made at Stony Brook. And I think part of that also was a lot of them, they all went to Bronx Science, which is a specialty school in the city. And when you live in New York City, it's so diverse. But like they went to the specialty school in the Bronx Science is a big school in the city. And I don't know if New York City schools, like high schools, you test into them.
Okay.
So you get like this kind of private school, specialized school, but it's a public school. So I have all these friends who I went to college with who all went to Bronx Science. They all just tested high enough in like math and science skills when they were in middle school that they got to go to this fancy-ish smart kid school in the Bronx. And like when my friends get together, there's me, I'm native. I have a friend from Dominica, so he's not Dominican. He's not like from the DR. He's Dominican. But then there's also like 3 Dominican kids in the friend group. Puerto Rican, Guyanese, a lot of Italian girls in my friends group somehow. That ended up a lot of Italian American girls. But then we have this like very vaguely diverse group of people. And I feel like when we show up places, it's how do those people get together? They got a lot of skin tones over there. Skin tones, hair textures, interesting last names in that friend group. And that's why I love it. So I always try to, I think here on the res on Shinnecock, some of our kids have started going to HBCUs. And I like them. Sounds like a fun time. But I'm always like, you guys should go to Stony Brook. You can meet so many people. You get like such a diverse thing.
Yeah.
I had African roommates in college and those Chinese girls. I had a roommate who was from somewhere else on Long Island. It was ridiculous that we were so close to each other, like geographically close to each other. And I've always loved that. I've always liked having this like very
but I think also if you just put yourself out there, you can gravitate to all the other people. Yep. It is such a globalized world now.
Yes, it is.
So it's hard to escape just staying with your own kind, but it's also easy if you stay comfortable or things like that.
And I think it also helps if you're interested in having a sort of more global friends group. You end up with one. And I think it opens you up to so many like different things. I think I'm a valuable part of my friends group because I have a different perspective on life. Before the podcast, I was telling her about my res life with my grandparents, and they were really resi and just like to do crazy res stuff. And I tell those stories to my friends, and they're like, "What? Your grandma and her brothers were throwing knives at a tree? Someone got their eye shot out?" And I'm like, "Yeah." That's what happens when you throw a knife at a tree. Sometimes it bounces back and hits you in the eye. And that's just life, okay? My friends are like, that's a crazy thing that you said that so casually. And I'm like, that's it.
It's just life. Yeah.
That's life. That's life when you're here. And you guys grew up in the city, so you got a different life. So let's see. What are my other questions? So when you talk about your art, like, how do you describe yourself as an artist? Like,
I say that I'm an interdisciplinary indigenous artist.
okay. And what
Simply said, but everyone's, oh, what's interdisciplinary? What does that mean? And I really mean interdisciplinary. I do woodworking. I've done sound design. I do illustrations. I do writing. Now I'm doing ceramics.
Okay.
I'm actually having a lot of fun with. My new studio mates, they both do ceramic. So they've helped me a lot in exploring the world. I do video. I've done motion graphics now. I made video games.
Ooh.
And for me, I think it's like everything is a means for whatever story. So I would always say, I'm an interdisciplinary artist, but it is so much about the story I'm trying to tell. And whatever medium is best suited is the way that I go about it, I would say. So a little bit of a jack of all trades.
Okay.
I primarily studied woodworking in mica, and now I'm also doing it a lot more in my studio practice. But of course, this project is like the reclamation project. It's so much to do with field research and field work and interviewing and talking with people and documenting and writing and then I do illustrations for it, and it comes to a lot of different things. And the soil itself for me is the sculptural aspect of the work.
Yeah.
So, I would say interdisciplinary in the broadest sense.
Yes. Okay, I feel that. Like, it's a routine that I just call myself photographer. It's the easiest thing. But, so I'm the communication director for Shinnecock. So there's a lot of me just, I have to write stuff. I have to cover stuff. As a journalist, I got to talk to people. And I got to tell their stories. So it's a lot of what is the right way of telling their story in this sort of way.
Somebody who just does not, I don't want to get into it. I'm like, I just do woodworking. And they're like, oh, cool. And I'm like, and they're like, what kind? I'm like, furniture, just to make furniture. And it's not a lie. Like, I just made a new wardrobe for my new house. And I had so much fun doing it. It was such a blast. It's my first apartment I'm moving in that has like no furniture at all. So I was like, okay, let's start with.
And you're like,
I need somewhere to put my clothes.
I have the skills. I can make my perfect dresser.
I'm like, where can I put my clothing? This is number one priority.
Yes. All right. So it's all about storytelling. Let's talk about the reclamation project.
Yeah.
I want to know all about it. So actually I have this written down. Can you explain it to me like I'm 5?
Yes. So the Reclamation Project is a project in which I go onto Indigenous homelands and I reach out to Indigenous tribal members to invite me and take me onto their homelands and spend a day with me. We talk about their relationship to their own homeland and kind of their community and themselves and their placement in their environments, immediate and greater environments. Okay. At the very end of the meeting or the day or the time, I asked to collect a sample of soil. And this soil it's a representation of really where they think that they are from or they belong or they have a connection. So some of these soil samples have been collected from places that aren't legally registered or recognized as tribal lands. Okay. Some of the tribes I've also met with aren't federally recognized or even state recognized. Yeah. And I think what's important about it is documenting Indigenous people today and also having this very personal connection because you can do research and you can read and there's tons of books. Here, even at Ma's house, we're surrounded by so much beautiful literature and an amazing library, but you don't really get a sense of who people are until you're with them. Yes. And you're able to also understand what they're aiming towards, what they're progressing towards, what they're struggling with, just their day-to-day lives, which I think is the most important aspect of the project. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the short of it. Okay. So it's about tribal members and their relationships to their homelands.
I love that.
Expressed in, the very earth that they live in.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So like I said, I'm a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a lot of event photography. I do some portraits and stuff like that. I work for the tribe. The big one is our powwow. That's the most important thing that I take pictures of powwow. But I take pictures of all the things that are going on. And I think there's a real big aspect of what you said about the books. You can read as many things as you can about something, but when you are in it and you have a conversation with people, it's a little different. So my work, which is hard for me to say my work because I've only been taking photos for a couple years. I got into this job. They're like, do you have a camera? I said no. They're like, well, you need to get a camera. And not to document everything the way I'm doing it now that it's spiraled into, but it started as we have Veterans Day. We need to take a picture of the veterans holding the sign that says Shinnecock Veterans. So you can write about the Veterans Day thing that we did in a news reporter type of way. And then it's really spiraled into me getting so involved in so many more aspects of the reservation that really wasn't involved in growing up or even as an adult. I just basically just minding my business. I was going to powwow, go to Nanawa. We have a Thanksgiving thing we do. We, as a tribe, celebrate Thanksgiving the week before. So that way we can all come together as a tribe and celebrate Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And it links up with the harvest festival that our ancestors did, but it also links up with the story we've all heard of why we do it the week before. Shinnecock people tended to work for the white people in Southampton. So you had to work on Thanksgiving. You had to be servants in their houses and serve them food and stuff. So we decided as a group when the 20s or whatever, we should all just come together the week before. Because they'll give you a day off the week before Thanksgiving, the Thursday before Thanksgiving. You can have the week off. And now it's a big thing. And I could say that in a history book. You could put it in a book that Shinnecock, and Jeremy has this really great website on this site, and it's funny because I get so much information from it when I have to write something. I just got to look something up. I got to write a little paragraph about this thing we did. I'm like, let me see if Jeremy has some historical information about that. It's on his website. I can pull it up on his website, and I can say it to people, and it sounds nice. You were like, oh, that sounds nice. Oh, you all get together for Thanksgiving. But it is definitely different to be there and see it, and to an extent, document it.
Yeah, I definitely know that there's been a big also resurgence within indigenous, movements to kind of veto Thanksgiving as a holiday and kind of be like, oh no, we're not celebrating this. I'm not celebrating. I'm indigenous. This is a horrible holiday. All these bad things happen. But I come from like a pueblo where feast days are so important and they're so integral. And when I'm in the Netherlands, all my European friends celebrate Thanksgiving with me.
It's a great holiday.
And it's amazing. It's like I invite everyone, and it's potluck style. So they need to bring a dish from their respective country or wherever they're from. Or the close friends that I have, I assign them. I'm like, okay, you're doing mac and cheese. You're going to do cornbread.
Recipe.
So like that way I have my American essentials, the ones that I want. And then I'll usually make like a pozole or something like this. And it's one of my favorite traditions. And I think, there is a lot of discourse. And of course, people need to make their own decisions whether they want to celebrate or not. But it definitely takes a different stance. And it's really nice when you have those moments of, coming together and experiencing. But you also have different, things for different people. Like my dad always celebrates orphans Thanksgiving or something, where he invites all of the people who don't have families, newlywed couples that can't afford to fly home, or like people who just say they're not with their family this year. So it's called orphans because it's just the straight people who don't have, like, they can't make it back home for Thanksgiving. And it is such an important sense of coming together and being with a family. And even if it's like your made up family.
The lights flickered.
No, Thanksgiving.
I personally, I do like Thanksgiving. It's so funny. Shinnecock, we have Nanawa. And I think for the most part, everybody comes together. We all really like it. It's not so much Thanksgiving. We don't call it Thanksgiving, but we casually call it like Shinnecock Thanksgiving. I'm sure there's a explanation, translation for that word. I just don't have it off the top of my head. But we all do it. And I know personally in my family, it's a time to get together. And we all get to have a dinner when we get to take out some fancy napkins, some themed napkins, and we all get together. But when I was in college, I had a teacher, and she was a well-meaning white lady, you know how they are. And it was like right before Thanksgiving break, and she was an Italian teacher. She was Italian American, and it was just like a general ed class. I don't even know how to explain that class because I don't understand what it was. I went to a really big school, and so it was a class you got to go as a freshman to have a small school experience within a giant campus. So all those kids in my class, I had a bunch of other classes with them, wasn't too wild. And then we had this class with this lady, and we were all in this class with this lady, and it was just like very gen ed, liberal arts, nothing class. We read some books, and we mostly just talked, I think. And I remember one year, like right before Thanksgiving, she went on this rant about Thanksgiving and how she doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving, and this is why she doesn't, and the Native Americans. And she went on this whole rant, and I let her. And then at the end, I was like, hey, I'm Native American, and my reservation, for the most part, celebrates Thanksgiving because it's a time for us. It's not about the Pilgrims and the Indians. It's a time to come together and be thankful. And also the summer's ending, and it's just a thing. And so we have these Thanksgivings. I have Friendsgivings with my friends, and it's interesting. I've had to explain to my mother a number of times why Friendsgiving is just a random day. It might end up being in December because we couldn't get together in November. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not spending Thanksgiving with my friends. I'm spending a different day with them together, having a meal as friends, because it's all about being together. But so Shinnecock, we do that. And what happened? 4th of July just passed. And like 4th of July is a weird holiday. Just, I think in general for most people, like not even natives. It's just like a weird time. But Shinnecock always shows up. And I feel like most years we win an award, some sort of best float. I don't know if the town of Southampton believes that, or they just want to be good allies. Well, if we give them this float, they can't say we're racist. I don't know what's going on there. But we pretty much always win some sort of award at the parade. And I think this year we were the first group to even go through. So we were like right behind the start of the parade. We were the first group who went. And we all showed up. We came hard. There's no limits to how many floats you can have. I learned this parade. I haven't been to the parade in a really long time. It's just crowded and it's hot. That's the main, and it's boring. I don't like parades. Like, it has nothing to do with the 4th of July and me not being patriotic or I'm taking a stand. It's just, it's so early and it's hot. There's a lot of people standing around. So I don't ever go. But I went this year for the first time since like middle school. I'm in my 30s. Haven't been there like 20 years. Shinnecock had 6 floats going through. I was like, dang, they just let us do all this. So we show up big, and then every year for a really long time I used to just go to the beach. I would take my friends from the city and I would come out here to bring them to the ocean, and we can just sit at the ocean all day on 4th of July. But this year me and my friends, we did some other stuff. We went to a barbecue and we just all hung out, and I was like, listen, I know 4th of July is a weird holiday, but I think I celebrate it as a way to not be British. You got to celebrate not being British.
We got to celebrate our independence.
I know, people are always, what really is our freedom? Our freedom is we don't have a king, okay?
Funny, because one of my best friends came to visit me in the Netherlands, and it was during 4th of July. And we were like, yeah, let's just go off. Let's just celebrate being American in Europe. Like, our independence.
Yes.
And we got these little tiny American flags that are little toothpick ones. You put in like a martini or whatever. Yeah. And we went to one of my friend's bars, and we were just handing them out to each table. So there was a group of French students who were like, oh my God, you guys, happy 4th of July, happy 4th. And they're like, happy 4th, yeah. And then I give them little American flags, and you like clip them in. And they're like, wow, thank you. I got the whole buffet wearing these little American flags. And we also had Brits who are like out here. I'm like, yeah, we're really happy you got our independence from us.
You were the enemy.
I'm like, look at us with our independence.
Yes.
Great.
I celebrated Independence Day once in Greece. I just happened to be in Greece. I went on vacation to Greece in it. And it was funny. It was like the first year I hadn't taken my friends to the beach. My city friends had been coming out to Southampton to come to the beach for 4th of July every year for 10 straight years. And then one year I went to Greece and I was on the beach. And I was like sending them photos in the group chat. I was like, look, I'm still doing it in Greece. Happy 4th, guys. As I was just partying in Greece. I love it. Not from a patriotic way, just vaguely fun.
You got to take your wins.
You got to take your wins. I feel like listen, the Olympics are on right now.
Yeah.
That's the time. That is the time to be as patriotic as I can physically be.
Yes.
I have no thoughts on China any other time of year. But I'm like, we got to beat them. It's us versus the Chinese. Don't have a single thought about China the rest of the time. I'm like, this is a big country. There's a lot of them. Like, you know how like people are weirdly racist towards China? I don't have a thought about them the rest of the year. Every 2 years. I'm like, we got to beat those Chinese people. It's the Olympics. We must win. And we do be winning. I love that. That's another fun reason being American. We do win a lot of awards at the Olympics. We're real good. We're real good. But I feel like it's just because we have so many people.
I just haven't really watched the Olympics. I'm not going to lie.
Really?
No.
The Olympics are good. I haven't been watching it this year. I haven't really started yet. But I love the Olympics. Gymnast. You gotta watch the sports we're real good at.
Okay.
Like gymnastics. And gymnastics is turning into a black sport, which is fun. There's a lot of black gymnasts. Black female gymnasts. We're so good at gymnasts. I don't watch the basketball, which is funny. Because that's probably a big one of our sports too. But I'm not really into it. Diving's fun. I don't think we're good at that. But diving's fun. Also, there's so many interesting sports. Like breakdancing is in the Olympics this year.
Really?
Yes.
That's so cool.
And last year they added skateboarding. Or last Olympics they added skateboarding.
That's awesome.
So they have skateboarding and breakdancing in the Olympics now.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yes. So they have that. And then they also have a refugee team.
Okay.
So just all these people from different countries where they're refugees from, they all get to complete under one thing. The
That's
refugee
really nice.
team. And so I think there's breakdancers on the refugee team.
That's
Yes. So the Olympics are fun. We should watch them.
NBC.
Did you know that? Snoop Dogg got to carry, they have the torch.
You know about the torch?
Snoop Dogg.
He carried the torch.
He got to carry the torch.
Wow.
He was one of the torch bearers.
Sick.
Snoop Dogg is in Paris right now.
I'm convinced. I'll watch the
and
Olympics.
he's doing commentary.
That's awesome.
They hired him to do a bunch of the commentary for all different random sports. And so he's probably doing commentary for like weird sports he's never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's always weird sports you've never seen before. Like there's 3-on-3 basketball and then there's normal 5-on-5 basketball in the Olympics. And then there's like rock climbing. That's an Olympic sport. Who can do it the fastest?
That makes sense. Rock climbing is crazy.
Yeah. But so like Snoop Dogg is like watching handball and just commenting on it. And he probably has never seen anybody play handball before. So the Olympics are great. You should watch it.
I'm convinced. I'm
Yes.
definitely convinced.
Yes, you got to do it. Do you play any sports? Unrelated to the podcast.
I used to do
athleticism?
track and cross country. I really loved running a lot. And I still run a bit, but not as much as I should.
I've been learning to run.
I love
last
running.
couple-
I think it's very meditative. It's a lot about just like also personal endeavor.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to beat anyone or go super fast. Like it's nice thing about also just like running for yourself.
Yeah.
It's such a, you know, you're at pace with your body and you're getting to know yourself and your limits and
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, it is really good for meditative. I've been learning to run every year. Every summer, I'm always like, I'm going to learn to run. And it's always like, why am I doing this in the summertime? Secondly, never works out. But this year I found a better training program. And it rained on Wednesday. And it started raining while I was running. And I was like, I'm already out here and I'm wet. So might as well just finish. And then it was like the best. I was like, this was great.
Refreshing.
Yeah, this was so nice. Should rain more often when I run. I should run in the rain every time. Kept my body cool.
As long as you don't slip.
Yeah, no, I did not slip or anything. And then I was like, if it starts thundering, I am ending this.
Then you're going to run home. You're going to quit.
I was like, I'm going to have to end this if it's thundering. But yeah, running is good. The Olympics are fun. We should watch it.
All right. I will.
You should watch it. Swimming. We're also good at swimming. Katie Ledecky. She'd be winning all the time. Let's see. How did you find Ma's house?
How did I find out about it?
Mm-hmm.
I did a previous residency out at the Ford Foundation
Okay.
up north. You know that? No. Okay. So it's another artist in residency in the Stockbridge Munsee tribal lands.
Okay.
And they introduced me to, the Shinnecock Reservation and Ma's house. They were out here for your 77th annual powwow.
Okay. Yep. Last year.
So I went out here with Sarah, is her name, one of the workers from Forge, and spent the night, just out here actually, just camped out. It was really nice. And then I woke up in the morning and I spent some time during the powwow and met with people. And then I got introduced to Jeremy. And then he invited me to apply for the residency. And
The rest is history.
so it was just actually a nice, sweet, lovely little introduction. And the powwow was really amazing. It was like everyone was so welcoming, and it's such good food. Oh,
right.
I was like taking out.
Right. It's so good.
Yes.
That is part of powwow.
That's like my favorite part.
Last year at powwow, I had only started taking pictures a couple years ago. So like the year before, 2 years ago was my first year taking pictures of powwow. This last year, I bought a nicer camera, and I was so excited for powwow. I was like, I'm ready. Let's do it. Saturday morning, my camera broke. So I was mad all weekend. And I didn't even come on Sunday. I stayed home. I was so mad my camera broke. But I came to powwow on Sunday specifically to get some food. And then I went back home. I was like, I got to eat fry bread every day during powwow. So like, I think I came. I got some fry bread and some other things. And I went home. But yeah, the food is so good.
It's the best.
Food is so good. I don't really go to a lot of powwows. But from really what I'm understanding, Shinnecock is a very unique powwow. It's so big. We have the stage. It's like totally different than other powwows. So I love it. I'm on the powwow committee. So
nice.
Having someone be like, oh my God, yes, I came to powwow last year. It was great. I love that.
Have you ever danced or done any?
No. No. I used to dance when I was little. I was tiny tot, little kids. And I have one memory of being on stage. And I just don't think they did the candy dance when I was a kid. I think they just had to dance when I was a kid. And I think I sat down. And I think that was the last time I ever danced. I was like, I'm not doing this. I was like 4. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down on the ground. I'm over it. So, yeah, so I don't dance. And one part of my family, no one dances. But we are definitely powwow people. My mom and my aunt had a stand when I was growing up. My mom doesn't do it anymore. My aunt still has a stand every year. She goes to a lot of the East Coast powwows. So I think she went to Queen's Powwow this weekend. On that side of my family, none of us have ever danced. And we still don't. None of the little kids dance either. I think we put them in regalia because you do that when you got a 5-year-old. You can put them in a regalia. As soon as they get a little bit of agency, it's a toss-up if they still want to do it. But so no, I didn't dance, but my grandfather for a long time was the ceremonial chief for powwow. We don't have a chief system. We have a council system, and he was one of the trustees for a really long time. But then he was the ceremonial chief of the powwow like the entire time I was growing up. I'm in the back of powwow. I do all the advertising and the flyers, and I got to do all these. I got to put the tickets up online and answer all the questions and things. That's what I do with powwow. But I am on the powwow committee. It's an incredibly stressful thing to do because it's a big powwow. So there's 8 of us who plan it.
Wow.
Every year.
Not so many.
There's like 8 to 12 people on the powwow committee. And we're trying to figure it all out, and we get it every year. We figure it out every year. Yeah. Powwow happens, and it's good, and it's great. So that's cool. Although, so that's how you found Maz. But, like, you go to these other tribes. Like, how are you finding?
Everything is through a personal connection. I actually haven't reached out to any tribal member randomly. A little bit of it is to do with my own safety. I'm a young Indigenous woman traveling around the country by myself. Reservations can be diverse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them ghettos, but some of them can have a lot of hardships.
Yeah.
It is a vast country with a lot of different types of reservations.
Yeah.
So for me, I always go through somebody, a recommendation or connection.
Okay.
This is also not just for safety, but for this personal connection. I think if you're reaching out to a tribe, you don't reach out as a stranger.
Yeah.
Even if I am Indigenous and I'm coming with good intent, I think it's important for the project to have this personal connection and already have somebody who can vouch for me and be like, hey, this girl's a cool artist. Yes. Come have her.
This for a weird reason.
I have had people who've seen my project and have reached out. Oh, I'd love to come invite you.
Okay.
And then that's always great as well. That's also really nice if people want to extend an offer and invite me and they've seen my work. And then I can understand that they're coming from a place of knowing my work and who I am and things like this. And so that's how it's gone. And of course, in New Mexico, we're all kind of Pueblo people and we know each other, so that's a lot easier. Being on the East Coast, Forge helped a lot, and my parents also being quite connected in the native world helps. They're both quite successful Indigenous artists, and they're so friendly and charismatic. They have friends everywhere, so I'm always like calling my mom. I'm like, hey mom, do you know anybody here? And she's like, oh yeah, of course. Like let me call him right now for you. And he's like, he's going to meet you tomorrow by the 66 gas station, like gas station, right there. And I'm like, okay, cool. What's his name? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't necessarily grow up like that, but now that I'm more in the art world and I'm spending more time with people like Jeremy and like some of our other people, they know so many people. And there's always just some connection.
Because, being also a lot of the people I've met are artists. Yeah. It does help. Because the Indigenous art world is very particular and we are all connected. And it is helpful, and you got to help each other out.
Yeah.
It's the way we're going to make it. We are making it, which is incredible to see. Like, even this year, I went to the Venice Biennale, and I saw Jeffrey's work in the pavilion, and it was just incredible. Also, speaking of powwow dancers, it was beautiful. But it's nice because you have these different connections from everywhere. I do want to explore and expand globally as well with the project. So as of now, I've just been collecting soil and interviewing tribes on Turtle Island and stuff like this. But it would be nice to also explore like New Zealand or other places. There's so many different cultures and people who are stewards of their land. And I think that's also what the project's about, is being a steward and having that kind of connection to your homeland and protecting the rights, things like this, reclaiming it.
Yeah. That's the name of the project. Reclamation. Did you was Jeremy your person here? Did Jeremy introduce you to other people when you were here? What'd you do here?
He really introduced me here.
Okay.
And yeah, without Jeremy, I'd probably reach out to my own connections, but he we sat down day one. He's like, all right, what do you need? And I'm like, if you know anyone who might want to meet, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right. And then he calls up 12 people and they're like, all right, I can do Monday, I can do Tuesday, I can do Wednesday, blah, 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 blah. It was amazing. Yeah, really great.
Okay.
I ended up visiting 3 different reservations while I was out here.
Okay.
I wanted to do a bit more, but yeah, it's also hard with timing and last minute. It's always the case. And of course, some people got sick or things happen. But it was really nice having that. And Jeremy was a great helper in this kind of branch of the project.
Yeah, he's good like that. He got all the connections and he knows so much. He helps me a lot. He's definitely, I feel like Jeremy's pushing me to be more of an artist all the time. This show that we have right now, The Shinnecock Speaks, I do not think I applied for that. I think he asked me about it. He was like, do you want to be a part of this? Or he was like, do you have anything? And I was like, I think we just talked about it months ago. And then one day he's like, I need the art this day. And I was like, oh, I forgot. I had to do something. And then he's asking me about an interview. Like, when are we going to sit down? Like, we need to schedule this interview. And I was like, I didn't even know that was part of this. I didn't read any of that paperwork. I don't think you sent it to me. I think you just spoke it to me and expected me to remember. But no, so Jeremy's pretty good with that. And I think also with him, like, he's a photographer and he's a fine art photographer. And I feel like that's just how he thinks of himself. But I think he's also very multidisciplinary.
He's very much, also art handler and curator. And I think he takes on many roles.
I think he takes on a lot of roles that I think he downplays it. So I do have a question though, because you're sitting down with community people and I'm trying to get better at interviews, and I don't know if Jeremy knew this and that's why he asked me to do that or not. He'd been like, oh, I know Rebecca's trying to do video, so let's have her do interviews, sit down. So what is, I guess, kind of your process with these? Like, when you sit down and talk to, like, when you came into Shinnecock and talked to people,
so
what were you doing?
Yeah, so I started, of course, I approached Jeremy first, and he recommended Sandy, his sister.
Okay.
Also because she's a great storyteller, and, we sat down. And every time I sit down with somebody, I'm going to sit down and tell them, first I tell them what my project's about, and then I express what I'm going to do. I say that I'll collect some video footage, some audio footage, audio recording. Yeah. I'll also do my own personal writings and take dictations from whatever the recordings have, and they'll go in the publication. Of course, everything I run past the tribal members before publication, like I release the publications and things like this. The documentary is very much ongoing, so I'm not super worried about, I'm sure when I distribute it, I'm going to pass it through everyone first. But yeah, I just make it really clear. Also, I'll tell them if there's things that you don't want me to record, just let me know before. Or if something gets accidentally recorded, just tell me to get rid of it, and I will. Yeah. I think a lot of the conversations I have with people revolve around this sense of respect, because I am in their homelands. Yep. I'm interested in hearing from them and their perspective, their topics. There's also some people, they just want to meet me first before I do any recording, anything. And I'm said that's definitely fine. Yep. I'm happy just to come and introduce myself on a personal level, get to know each other, and then we can decide if it works out for both of us. I don't know if I'm the best interviewer, but I think being a little shy has helped me a bit because I don't talk as much. And a lot of I've also learned growing up is just listening to my elders or giving people space to talk.
Yep.
And I can definitely sit with the silence quite well and just let people ramble and fill in gaps for me. And some of those are really key moments where I can hear a little bit more about. Yeah. And I think it's also just making a space of comfortability.
Sure.
Having this sense of, oh, I'm really here just to hear about it. And people are like, oh, but I'm not like this, or I haven't really, or I'm not the most. I'm like, you're the most valid person because you are who you are.
Yep.
I'm not here to see anyone but. And I also have this because a lot of people they've left their reservations for some time and they've come back and they say that they don't feel, you know, indigenous enough, or they don't have this great sense of connection that some of their other relatives have. And I think that, yeah, even for myself, like, I come back home and I want to spend more time there, but I also live and I work and I study at different places and I travel a lot. So it's hard for me to get back home. As valid, our opinions, our voices, our points, because we are indigenous. Yeah. And this is the new world perspective. And I think as long as when you come back onto the land, you're not trying to impose, or if you've learned something out there in the world, you're also not trying to shove it down your community's throat or perspective, because you haven't been there for some time and you need to relearn. So I don't know. I just try to listen. It's the best I can.
Yeah.
And make it comfortable. And every experience is really different and unique. And I'm really grateful for all of them.
Yeah.
So that's really, it's been really perfect.
I feel that.
And yeah, it's also a bit of a personal endeavor, right? Being able to go and visit indigenous people in different lands, because we are all connected and of the same people, but we're also very diverse.
Also different.
Yeah.
In our own unique ways. Did you watch Reservation Dogs?
I've seen the first season, but I haven't caught up.
You gotta watch the whole thing. It's so good. It's so good and so funny. I'm a big TV person. I have a degree in cinema and cultural studies. That's what I got my bachelor's in, watching movies on what they mean. And the show takes place in Oklahoma. I'm here in New York. We're not like their reservation is so different from our reservation. I think Shinnecock's probably so unique in where we're based and how the size of us and how we're surrounded, you know, where we are located. Like, I know where George Soros's house is. I can take you there. I know exactly where it is. I have rung up Richard Gere when I worked at Blockbuster down the street. So like we're so unique. And then you watch Reservation Dogs and I'm like, that man's my uncle. That is my uncle. That is exactly like my uncle. That man down to a T. And then you like watch it and you're like, oh, this is like that person. Who's like big? That one. And I was hanging out with my cousin yesterday and there's such foolish things were being said. And I was like, this is sitcom material right here. This is so goofy. And yeah, we are so different and we're all so alike. I live a very different life than those people in Oklahoma. I can't even imagine that sort of scenery and things like that and how different it would be. But at the end of the day, it's still a reservation and it's still, you are the people from a reservation and you're so unique.
Yeah. I definitely think characteristics and personality and jokes. I think our humor is in our blood.
Yes.
It must be. Right?
Native people have such a...
Our humor is really with us. It's just rooted in. But yeah, reservations are crazy different. I go to California and I see some reservations that are really thriving and they have like their own indigenous firefighters, or they're reclaiming so much land and they're really open and they're engaging and collaborating with a lot of the institutions and greater communities within the state. And that's really amazing. And I have my own reservation, which is very private, very, very old, very special. I come from a really beautiful reservation, but it's very exclusive, I would say. It's not open as much. And then I also have some places out here on the East Coast, which are the same. But yeah, when I came to Shinnecock, I was really like, you go around our reservation and it's not like mansions and like hedges. I remember I was driving one morning and there's like the Brad and Stacy in their all white Chanel tennis outfits with their matching rackets. And I'm like, this is insane. And I go by and I peer through the hedges to like some of the members only clubs. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a cult. This is insane. And I'm like on the phone with my family, like, how are you? How's things? I'm like, I don't know. These people are wild. The reservation's great, but the people outside are wild.
Insane. It's insane. Like, I was at the beach yesterday. We're at the ocean and we heard all this noise. And then we realized, like, way down the ocean at someone's mansion, they were having a big party. And then we had to drive. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. There were all these, like, cops at this, like, one spot when we were driving over here. And they were closing off the road. We didn't know. And then when I drove back the other way, they had a food truck. And I told one of my cousins later, I was like, yeah, there was a party at the beach and they had like a food truck. And she was like, see, I would have stopped and tried to get some of that food. She was like, I would have paid that man to give me whatever food they had in that food truck at this person's private party. Like, I'm sure that private party, that food truck was free. They paid for it. The guest didn't have to pay for it. And she was like, I would have paid full price for whatever he had at that food truck. I bet it was good. if some rich people had a food truck at the beach.
I don't know. Sometimes I have it where, like, you know, all of this excess and all this taste, it doesn't mean you have taste.
I was at a party. Guildhall is a local art house here, and they hired me to take photos of some event they had, and it was at somebody's mansion. Was huge. I was like, this is a person's house. Why do they have this big room? Like, they had a big, long room for performances in their home.
Wow.
And I have a picture on my phone. I keep showing it to people. I'm like, this is someone's house. This is the inside of someone's house. And they're like, why is that room so big? I'm like, I don't know. The lady got a big room in her house, and they had a food truck, a pizza making truck there. So we just had pizza the whole time, like freshly made pizzas. And I was like, I love this. I love these kind of parties that we have. And then it's funny, Shinnecock people, when I grew up, none of the people in my generation, we were in high school, we did not have cars. If you had a car, you had a res whip. Like, you had a... this may or may not be street legal type of car. And now these kids, just a lot of kids on the reservation now that have nice cars. Like, I got a Jeep, a brand new Jeep for my Sweet 16. These kids are living different than what I was living, which is great. It's always great to see your community get more money, more people have better jobs, are able to give more. And yeah, I've also been to some res parties where they were real nice. And I'm like, oh, I know you have a nice car, but I didn't know you had it like this. I've seen the outside of your house. I just didn't know you lived like this. I didn't know you got the nice rich people parties, because my graduation party was like at my grandpa's house, and it was mostly old people. You know, now I go to a graduation party and, oh, you have an oyster bar?
It's also maybe one thing I do really like about living in the Netherlands is that, there's such good social security. Yeah. And it feels, everyone's equal. Like, even if you got a lot of money, you're the same as everyone. And, like, even if you don't got a lot of money, you can pretty much do the same things. So if you want to go out with your friends, it's never, oh, I can't really, like, afford to. And you're like, okay, let's cook something at my house. And then it's, like, never a big imposition. They're like, just come over. I'll, like, wine and dine you. So nice. And it's, like... It feels very easy because there's not so much of this. Not the U.S., there's just massive differences, like crazy. But of course, it exists everywhere.
Yeah, there's differences, but we are a very class-based.
But the idea that you don't get paid minimum wage and you're expected to live off of tips is ridiculous. Like, in itself. And I'm so bad now that I've been living in Europe. I'm like, I don't want to tip. I'm not tipping. Your boss needs to pay you. This is not my job. I will tip you because this is a horrible
I'm a member of society.
But I do not agree with this tipping culture. I think your boss needs to pay you above minimum wage, and your tip is just something extra you're going to take home. Like, it's crazy to me.
This is a crazy
And I forgot that, like, also, like, tax, you don't show tax when you buy something. And I keep buying things. I'm like, what? Why is this wrong? I'm like, Dad. They're like, no, that's tax. And I'm like, what? This much?
It's
Why
not
didn't
included in the price? Yeah,
I think the lack of transparency also is just, I don't miss it.
I wouldn't either, but this is all I know. Yeah, my mom wasn't on a fancy whatever you said earlier. What did you say she was? She was on a team in Venice.
Oh, a gondola team.
Yeah, she was on a gondola. Yeah, I didn't get to spend any time in Europe.
Well,
I've
my
been in Europe,
dad,
though.
he got a full ride scholarship to I think a school out in Venice, because he's a painter. He
Okay.
studied painting. And then at some point he just brought the whole family. And I guess also at that time, yeah, I think our parents' time was different. Just do shit. Yeah, let's move the whole family out to
Honestly,
Venice.
true. Listen, my mom's gonna be mad when I say this, but my mom's first husband was a white Rasta. You could just do this. You could just do shit. I feel like if I tried to bring home a white Rasta, mom would be like,
I
all
will
right.
also say I feel like I live a lot cheaper in like where I live in Europe. Groceries here are insane.
Oh yeah, no, it's expensive
Stopped
here right now.
eating. I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, all right, I can afford some yogurt. And the yogurt's $8.
Yeah, it's expensive. It is expensive, and also we're in a very expensive area. So
That's
you
true.
came to visit, and we live in it. I grew up. My mom is a teacher, is a retired school teacher. She's an elementary school librarian, and I grew up thinking that teachers had money until I went to college, and it was explained to me that public school teachers do not have money because Southampton is the highest paid school district in the country.
Wow.
And so I'd go to a house owned by 2 teachers, and they would have a big pool. And I just always assumed
the teachers have money.
teachers had money. A lot of the teachers also, it was like a teacher who made a ton of money who was married to a guy who owns a tile business. And then I would go to their house, and they'd have a pool and a basketball court and a tennis court in there separately. Like a lot of places, the basketball court and the tennis court are the same. It'd be like 2 separate courts in their backyard. And I was just like, yeah, teachers make a lot of money. Teachers make a lot of money. It's different for me and my mom because we live on the reservation. You can't get a mortgage. But I think my mom makes a lot of money. And I think my mom did make a pretty good amount of money. But I literally just thought teachers were rich when I was growing up. Because I'm just like, Southampton is a different world. Like I said, I know where George Soros lives. I used to answer phones at a bus company, and Alec Baldwin would call all the time. Alec Baldwin, Blythe Danner, who was Gwyneth Paltrow's mother. I used to talk to her on the phone all the time, just calling to make an appointment so she can go into the city for the day. She had a house in East Hampton. And that was just like a day-to-day at my minimum wage job. Just talking to Alec Baldwin once a week while he sent his nanny back into the city for 2 days. And that was just the life I lived.
It's also crazy. Yeah, the help that I see around here, that's wild also. I was getting some drone footage earlier, and it was just like, I saw this woman, she was just like crying on the phone to her family. She's like, the baby I'm taking care of, and the mother. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for you.
It's ridiculous. We had a couple years ago, I'm not going to tell you the details because it's sad, but there was an au pair, came from Germany, picked them up that day, the family, and they were young, some wealthy white people in their early 20s, had an au pair. Wow, I can't imagine being like 25 and you get a whole au pair. That sounds like a older person, rich person thing, not like a young rich person. But either way, they got in a car accident with another. So this was a rich white family, other rich white family. And they got in a car accident the day they picked up this au pair. And we were all like, I wonder what's going to happen because the victim is a rich person. But also the perpetrator is a rich person. Can you get in trouble as a rich person if you hit another rich person?
Then you just swap insurance and call it a day.
It was really bad. The other rich person, the person who got hit, got like paralyzed from I think the waist down. Like the young mother got paralyzed. The au pair. Now I'm going to tell you all the details. The au pair died, but the other person was like equally as rich, like the person who hit them. And we were all like, he has to go to jail, right? Because he paralyzed that lady. And then it was like, I didn't know that you could just hurt other rich people and still not get in trouble for it. I would have thought.
That's terrible.
But also this other thing, I live in a small town and you just know everything, all the gossip, probably saw something, seen some gossip, overheard some gossip. We're there when something happened. I was there. There was some stuff with Christy Brinkley and I was there. I remember that day very clearly. At a high school graduation, there was some drama involving America's first supermodel. It's small town drama, so you get small town drama here, but sometimes that drama is rich people. Justin Timberlake just got arrested.
That's like the best drama.
Justin Timberlake just got a DUI out here. And we loved that. That was a fun thing to learn. I'm surprised I haven't heard anybody been like, yeah, I know the cop who pulled him over. because I know someone got to know him. I got to be like 4 degrees away from that cop who pulled over Justin Timberlake. This is where you grow up. So it's a very unique, definitely very unique reservation. It's like life we got over here. Christy Brinkley, Justin Timberlake. We've all seen him. Jay-Z's in a walking club in East Hampton.
Ooh.
I've seen pictures of him in his walking club. East Hampton. I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say. Do you have anything you want to add?
I feel like we've covered it.
We covered a lot. We had a fun time.
We had a lot of fun. We had jokes.
Okay, I'm going to say this since we're ending it. How can people follow you and support you?
My Instagram is at reclamation.project. And also you can just follow me and my career through there. A lot more about the project. My website, margeauxabeyta.com. Easy. And yeah, you can support if you're Indigenous and you want to welcome me onto your lands and invite me. I'll try to make time when I'm in the area.
Okay.
Of course, it's a big project. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think this is really ongoing. So I probably will be doing it for years. I've already been doing it for years and I don't see an end yet. So I guess it's progressing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess that's it. I don't know how Hunter ends these, but thank you for listening to the Moz House podcast.
Thank you for having me.